Chapter 145 of Shrimadbhagavatam, the Yadava line. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yayati had 5 sons: Yadu, Druhyu, Turvasu, Anu, and Puru. Puru, as we have already seen, became the favorite of his father, and Yayati left the entire kingdom in the hands of Puru. His descendants was Shantanu, who was the grandfather of the Kauravas and the Pandavas. Yadu, the eldest, was never really interested in ruling a kingdom. He had been made to rule one of the smaller kingdoms. One of his descendants was Vitihotra, and his son was Madhu. Madhu's son was Vrishni, and 99 more. Since the later sons were all descendants of these two, they are referred to as the Madhavas or the Vrishnis. A later descendant was Dashharha, and so Dashharhas was another name for the Yadava clan. Satvata was one of the Yadavas, and he had 7 sons: Bhajamana, Bhaji, Divya, Vrishni, Devavrata, Andaka, and Mahabhoja. These became the ancestors of Andaka, Vrishni, and Bhoja kingdoms. Vrishni was the father of 2 sons, one of whom was Yudhajit. His son was Sini, and the other son was Anamitra. Sini had a son by name Satyaka. Satyaka's son was Yuyudhana, better known as Satyaki. Satyaka's son was Yuyudhana, better known as Satyaki. Anamitra had a son named Nirmana, and his sons were Satrajit and Prasena. Andaka was one of the Yadavas. His descendants was Ahuka, whose sons were Devaka and Ugrasena. Devaka had a daughter by name Devaki, who was given in marriage to Vasudeva. The son of Devamidha was Shura, who had 10 sons, the eldest of whom was Vasudeva. When this son was born, the heavens made music and the celestial trumpets blared forth the birth of the child who would later be the father of Narayana himself in human form, and so Vasudeva was famed as Anaka Dundubhi. Sini had a son by name Swayambhoja, and his son was Hridika. Satha Dhanu, Devabahu, and Krithavarma were the sons of Hridika. Vasudeva had 5 sisters: Prita, Shrutadevi, Shrutakirti, Shrutashravas, and Rajadi Devi. Kunti Bhoja was a friend of Shura and was childless, and so Shura gave his daughter Prita to his friend, and she was better known as Kunti, the mother of the Pandavas. Shrutadevi was given in marriage to Vridhasharma, the lord of Karusha. The son of Shrutadevi was Dantavakra, the third birth of Jaya, the doorkeeper of Narayana. His previous births were Hiranyakashipu and Ravana. Shrutakirti was married to the Kekeya prince, and 5 sons were born to her. These were the famed Kekeya brothers who took such an active part in the war on the field Kurukshetra. Rajhadevi was married to Jayasena, the lord of Avanti, and her sons were Vinda and Anuvinda, who were again prominent participants in the Great War. Her daughter Mitravinda was married to Krishna later. Shrutashravas was married to Dhamagosha, the lord of the Chedis, and her son was Shishupala. This Shishupala was the third birth of Vijaya, whose earlier births were Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, and Kumbhakarna. Vasudeva had 7 wives: Pauravi, Rohini, Bhadra, Madhira, Rochana, Ila, and Devaki. I repeat, Vasudeva had 7 wives: Pauravi, Rohini, Bhadra, Madhira, Rochana, Ila, and Devaki. The sons of Rohini were Gada, Sharana, Balarama, and others. 8 sons were born to Devaki, 6 of whom were killed by Kamsa. The seventh was Balarama, who was first conceived by Devaki and was later placed in the womb of Rohini by Vishnu Maya. Lord Narayana was born as the eighth child of Devaki and Vasudeva. When there is a dearth of dharma on the earth, when there is an increase in adharma, the Lord decides to be born in the world of men, to rid the earth of kings who were drunk with power, kings who were Asuras in the form of human beings. The Lord was born in the Yadava house. The unrighteousness of the Lord of the earth were choking her, and they had to be destroyed so that the earth could be cleansed with the blood of these lusty Kshatriyas. For this purpose, the Lord, with Balarama, the image of Ananta, appeared in the family of the Vrishnis. He performed deeds which can never be forgotten by anyone at any time. So glorious was the avatara of the Lord that it is called the best of his avataras, the Purnavatara. During Kali, the fourth quarter of time when the world is full of sinfulness, it will be the fame of the Lord during his birth as the son of Vasudeva, which will rid men of sorrow and pain and ignorance. Listening to the feats of Krishna, even once is enough to rid man of the vasanas. Listening to the feats of Krishna, even once is enough to rid man of the vasanas caused by karma. It is as pure as the achamana performed in the waters of the purest of tirthas. He was beloved of the Bhojas, the Vrishnis, and Andakas, Madhus, Surasenas, and Dasharhas. Even more dear was he to the Pandavas. His form was beautiful. His glance were kind. His smile was captivating. His words were ever full of dignity. His prowess was well known, and with this avatara the Lord charmed the world. With his ears decorated with the earrings shaped like fish, with his smile captivating all those whose eyes rested on his beautiful face, this Krishna performed glorious deeds and pleased the earth. He was born with his own form, with a Shankha and Chakra and 4 arms to Devaki to show them that he had kept his promise, and a few moments later took the shape of a human child. He was brought up in Gokula. He destroyed so many asuras, and later many great achievements were his. He lived on this earth for 125 years and then went back to the heavens where he came from. He lived this glorious life on the earth for the good of mankind. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Krishnarpanamas. Chapter 146 of Shrimadbhagavatam. Adharma is rampant. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shuka had stopped talking and Parikshit was waiting for him to continue the narration. But the Rishi was lost in meditation. He had told the king about Vasudeva and Devaki, and his mind now rested at the feet of the Lord who had taken a name and a form to rid the world of the poisons which were choking her. Shuka saw in his mind's eye all the many actions of the Lord. Tears were flowing from his eyes and he could not speak for a while. He opened his eyes after a few moments. Parikshit said, "My lord, you have so far told me the stories of the kings who ruled in the line of the sun and that of the moon, and you told me about the line of Yadu, which was chosen by the Lord for his next avatara. You told me that Krishna is the Sampurna avatara of the Lord and that Balarama is the image of Ananta. Please tell me in great detail the many events in the life of that great being during his life on this earth. Men like you, who had gone beyond the reach of desires, sing the praises of Krishna daily, eternally. Listening to the praises of the Lord, man is cured of the dread disease by name birth and death. Even a man who has committed the sin of killing a cow is absolved of his sin if he listens to the stories of the Lord. A mukta, a mumukshu, or a vishayi, all three of them reach salvation sooner or later. A mumukshu wants to attain moksha, that is, release from earthly ties, and his attempts are rewarded. But even a vishayi one who is still wallowing in the mire by name Samsara, has hopes of salvation if only he makes a sincere attempt to listen to the stories of Krishna. Apart from all these considerations, I have another great impulse which impels me to listen to his stories. During the great war in Kurukshetra, Krishna was the raft which carried my ancestors safe across the river called the Kurukshetra war. The river had Bhishma and Drona as the two banks. The waters were made up of the immense army with Jayadratha leading them on. Kripa was the swift current which carried destruction with it. Karna was the mighty wave which rose high to drown the Pandavas. Shalya was the shark which was lurking inside the waters, and he was accompanied by Ashwatthama and Vikarna. Duryodhana was the whirlpool which sucked everything along with it to destruction. Such a river was crossed by the Pandavas because the savior was Krishna. He made them cross the ocean of despair and reach the shore safely. And again, when the Brahmastra sent by Ashwatthama was threatening to destroy me, the only scion of the Kauravas and Pandava line, it was Krishna who protected me with his chakra and his gada. I heard it from you and I remember it too. Krishna pervades the insides of all living beings, and in the name of Antaryami, he grants them moksha. And this same Lord pervades the outside world and in the form of Kala creates the universe and its attendant Maya. Tell me, my Lord, why he took the form of a human being, why he was born as the son of Devaki and was brought up by Yashoda. How did he spend his childhood, his youth, his later years? Why did he kill his mother's brother? Why did he have to commit this dread sin? Please tell me in detail all about everything. When I think of the nectar in the form of his stories, I am not hungry or thirsty for ordinary food. Please grant me this favor. Shuka, the son of Vyasa, was immensely pleased with the genuine devotion of Parikshit, which prompted him to ask these questions, and with a smile he said, "Your mind is indeed well established in the right path, or else you would not have been impelled by such an anger, such an eager wish to listen to the stories of Krishna. Listening to the stories of Krishna purifies the one who narrates them, those who listen to them, and the one who asks to be told the stories. It is as purifying as the waters of the Ganga which flows from the feet of the Lord. Listen to me carefully, and I will tell you in great detail all the many events which led to the Lord Narayana deciding to be born on this sinful earth. Once, Mother Earth, burdened as she was with too many sinners, could bear the pain no more. She assumed the form of a cow and went to Brahma, the Creator, and stood before him with tears in her eyes. When he asked her why she was so despondent, she told him how much she was suffering because of the adharma which was rampant, about the sinful Kshatriyas who were polluting her. Brahma listened to her and said, "My dear woman, there is only one being who can help you, and that is Narayana." With Mahadeva and the Devas accompanying him, Brahma went and stood on the shore of the ocean of milk. There, he stood with his mind still and keen as a pointed flame, thinking on the Lord of the Lords, the Savior of the Devas. Silently, Brahma praised Narayana with the Purusha Sukta. Silently, Brahma praised Narayana with the Purusha Sukta. He then heard the voice of the Lord within his mind, and he spoke to those who had come with him. "Listen to the words of Lord Narayana," he said. "He is aware of the fever which is burning the frame of Mother Earth. He has decided to take a form and a name. He will live on the face of the earth till her troubles are over. During that time, he wants all of you to take births and stay on the earth. You are to be born in the house of Yadu. As for the Lord, he will be born as the son of Devaki and Vasudeva. Adishesha, his inseparable, will be born as the elder brother of the Lord. She, whose power drowns the entire world in delusion, that Vishnumaya, will also be born, since the Lord will command her to. And so, with all the denizens of the heavens born on the earth, and with the Lord of the Lords walking the earth for a while with the sole purpose of destroying evil, the world will be cleansed of all her sins and sinners too. Mother Earth was thus comforted, and all the Devas went back to their abodes with great joy in their hearts, since the world would soon be rid of her pain. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Krishnarpanamastu. Chapter 147 of Shrimadbhagavatam, A Voice from the Heavens. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shura was the lord of the Yadavas. The Yadavas were the descendants of Yadu, the son of Yayati. His kingdom was divided into two parts, Mathura and Surasena. There were two brothers by name Ugrasena and Devaka. Ugrasena was ruling the kingdom by name Mathura. He had a son called Kamsa. Devaka had a daughter named Devaki. A marriage was arranged between Vasudeva and Devaki. Vasudeva was the son of Shura. Kamsa was very fond of his sister Devaki, since he had no sister of his own. After the marriage celebrations were over, Vasudeva made preparations to take his bride home. 100 golden chariots were to form the escort for the jeweled chariot, which was carrying the newlyweds. Devaka had given 400 elephants, 15,000 horses, 200 beautiful maidens, and 1,800 chariot as dowry for his daughter. Auspicious music was played while Vasudeva and Devaki took their seats in the beautiful chariot. Kamsa came near and, asking the charioteer to descend, climbed onto the place himself and took up the reins of the horses in his hand. This was his gesture of affection for the sake of his sister. He had just applied the whip gently to the back of the horses, and the procession was on the point of starting. All on a sudden, a voice came from nowhere. The music crashed into silence, and all eyes were looking here, there, and everywhere to locate where the voice came from. It said, "You fool!" And it was evident that the voice was addressing Kamsa. The voice paused for a while, and as though it were waiting for the attention of the entire crowd. Then it went on, "You fool! This woman whom you are taking to her husband's palace is going to be the death of you. The 8th child born to her will kill you." In a flash, Kamsa jumped down from his place in the chariot. With one hand he pulled his sister by her long hair, and with the other he drew his sword out of the scabbard. He said, "So, you are going to be the mother of my killer? Let me see how that can happen. I will this moment send you to the abode of Yama. Then I have nothing to fear." His right hand was raised to strike her down, and his sword gleamed in the rays of the sun. Vasudeva ran towards him and caught hold of his right hand. He tried to pacify Kamsa. "Kamsa, you are the scion of a reputed house, the house of Shurasena, and you are a noble-minded prince. Are you going to lose your good name by killing a woman, your sister? You are a wise man. A wise man knows that death is born along with the birth of a man. When man is born, one thing is certain: he will have to die. It may be any time. It may be today, or it may be 100 years from today. The Atman in him holds on to another body and releases this body. Like a man who walks on the road by placing one foot after the other, even so the soul takes one body after another in an endless chain. It is like the worm crawling on the grass, securing one end of itself on the ground before releasing its other end from its hold. And a man's birth and death are always together. They can never be separated. When a man is born, there is one fact which is certain, and that is, he will die. Death is certain. It is only the time that is a variant. The Dehin, that is the Atman which inhabits the body, is deathless. The Dehin, governed as it is by the actions he has performed in this birth, will in the next birth assume a form, a body, and a name which will be in accordance with his actions and the fruits thereof. When the Dehin abandons the body, it has already been decided as to what type of life his next is going to be. Death is but an intermittent stage between two births. When an ordinary man sees during the course of the day the face of a king, or perhaps hears stories concerning Indra, the lord of the Devas, and such like, these leave an impression on his mind. With these thoughts prevailing in his mind, if he goes to sleep, he dreams of them. And in that dream world created by himself, he is the king or the Lord Indra himself. While he is under the influence of his dreams, man forgets his waking state and his real self, which is that of an ordinary man. Even so, like the impressions of the waking state influence the dream state of man, the actions which man has performed in one lifetime forms the basis for the next lifetime, the next birth of the Dehin. And just as a man forgets his waking state when he is living in the dream world, even so the Dehin, when he assumes the form for his next birth, forgets his previous birth. He loses himself in the delusion that he is what he is, that he is a sinner or a saint or a king or a beggar, as the case may be, forgetting that this condition has been preordained, not by fate but by his own actions in his previous birth. When a light, steadfast in itself, is reflected in a pot of water or of oil, whose surface is ruffled by the passing breeze, it seems so terrible. It seems to tremble, to move, to quiver, to be unsteady. But in reality, it is the reflecting surface which trembles and not the light. Even so, the Atman, conditioned as it is by the body, mind, and intellect, does not realize that it is apart from all this. Because of its ignorance of the truth about itself, the conditioned Atman becomes deluded by many desires, joys, and pains, which are the heritage of the world man. And so the thought that one Atman will hurt or kill another Atman is foolish. And being under the delusion that someone will hurt you, and so if you kill that person, it is wrong. You are a prince, Kamsa, a scion of a noble race, and you are extremely fond of your sister. How is it that all your love for her has dried up all on a sudden? How can you find it in your heart to kill your only sister who has just been married? Hardly a few hours have passed since she was given to me. She is your beloved sister, and you have loved her till a moment ago. Her eyes are now wide open with fright, and her form is trembling with fright and shock. Her eyes are streaming with tears. It is not right that you should kill this poor innocent maiden. Put up your sword, Kamsa. It does not become you to behave like this. But Kamsa would not listen. He was bent upon killing Devaki, who was a source of danger to him. Vasudeva found that his words were of no avail. He thought that he had to do some quick thinking if his wife had to be saved. He told himself, a wise man should use his wits and try to avert death, which is imminent. If, after one's attempts, the killing is not averted, then man need have no regrets. It is up to me to think of some way out of this danger to my wife. I will talk to Kamsa and tell him that I will make a gift of her sons to him. My sons are not yet born. Let me wait and see what happens before they are born. She will at least be alive till her children are born. Who knows? Death may come to Kamsa before the child happens. Even if he is alive when my children happen, maybe he will die at the hands of one of my sons. The heavens have prophesied it, and the words cannot be false. When a forest fire is raging, 1 or 2 trees may remain untouched by the fire. This will be by purest chance. This is but fate. Even so, Devaki, if she is fated to live, may live in spite of the danger to her now. There is nothing wrong in trying to pacify Kamsa with the promise that I will make a gift of the children to him when they are born. With a face unruffled by sorrow inside him, Vasudeva said, Kamsa, the heavenly voice did not say that Devaki is going to kill you. The danger is from her children. I promise to give the children to you as soon as they are born. Spare the life of this young bride of mine, this dear sister of yours. Kamsa thought for a moment and felt that Vasudeva's suggestion was good. He lowered his sword and said, Swame it! Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Chapter 148 of Shrimadbhagavatam, Sankarshana. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vasudeva and Devaki then entered the palace set apart for them and lived there. In course of time, a son was born to them. Vasudeva called him Kirtiman, and with pain in his heart carried the newborn child to the presence of Kamsa according to his promise. After all, to a great saint, there is nothing which is unbearable, and a wise man knows that he should never look forward to anything good or bad, but take it as it comes, with a mind serene and tranquil. Nothing is too low or beneath his dignity when a man decides to act with detachment. And to a man whose mind is firmly fixed on the feet of the Lord, nothing is impossible. Vasudeva was a man blessed with equanimity and wisdom, and it was possible for him to take the child and lay it at the feet of Kamsa and say, Here is my child. I promise to deliver him to you as soon as he was born. Kamsa was very pleased with this noble gesture on the part of Vasudeva. With a smiling face, he took the child and, placing it in the hands of Vasudeva, said, Please take this child back with you. I am not going to kill it. After all, I have been told that it is your eighth child which will be the death of me. This is your firstborn. I have no fear from him. Vasudeva went back with the child in his arms. But knowing the mind of his brother-in-law, he could not quite have faith in his words of his actions. Narada, the divine sage, came to see Kamsa. He spoke to him about many things, and among them was the news that the cowherds in Gokula, with Nanda as their head, the wives of the Yadavas, their cousins, friends and kinsmen, and many others were all devas born on the earth at the command on Lord Narayana, and that the purpose of their birth was the destruction, nay, the annihilation of all asuras. Kamsa was taken aback at the news. On top of that, Narada said, I do not think you should be so complacent about the sons of Devaki. The unseen voice proclaimed that her eighth child would kill you, and so you are allowing this first child to live. Think for a moment. What exactly does eighth mean? If you count backwards from the eighth, the first one becomes the eighth. If from the second, again the first will be the eighth. If you count from the third, the second will be the eighth, and so on. I do not think it is wise on your part to be careless about this vital matter. After sowing the seed of doubt in the mind of Kamsa, the rishi went away singing the praises of Narayana, as was his habit. Kamsa was now almost sure that the newborn child was Narayana and that it was born to kill him. He rushed to the house of Vasudeva and, snatching it from the mother's hand, killed it. And he kept on killing every child as soon as it was born. Is it not a feat that in this world a man who is greedy enough to save his life at the cost of another's will not hesitate to kill his father, mother, brothers, friends, in short, everyone else? Kamsa was also such a man. And again, Narada had told him that he was himself a great asura by name Kala Nemi, who in his previous birth had been killed by Narayana. And so he was sure that the child of Devaki would surely kill him if he did not take proper precautions. Kamsa began to hate the Yadavas and he started harassing them. Ugrasena was the ruler of the kingdom of Yadu, Bhoja and Andaka. Kamsa did not hesitate to suppress his father and put him in prison. He then began a rule of tyranny over the entire kingdom. Jarasandha, the king of Magadha, had given his daughters to Kamsa in marriage, and so Kamsa had many powerful allies. Jarasandha, Pralambha, Baka, Chanura, Trinavarta, Aghasura, Mushtika, Arishatha, Dvividha, Putana, Keshi, Dhenuka. Excepting Jarasandha, all the others were asuras. Along with these, many kings were friendly with Kamsa. The Yadavas, harassed as they were by Kamsa, took refuge in the countries like Kuru, Panchala, Kekeya, Salva, Vidarbha, Nishadha, Videha, and Koshala. Some of them thought it wiser and more politic to stay with him and become his adherents. 6 of Devaki's children had been killed, and her 7th had already assumed a form in her womb. Adishesha, one of the aspects of Narayana, had entered her womb to bring joy and sorrow to the mother who bore him. Lord Narayana knew that the time had come when the adharma in the world had to come to an end. He called Yogamaya and he commanded her thus: Devi, go at once to Gokula, where the cowherds are ruled by Nanda. Vasudeva's wife Rohini is there. The other wives of Vasudeva had gone into hiding, fearing the wrath of Kamsa. My Amsha, who is Adishesha, has entered the womb of Devaki at my command. You must now go there, extract the child from the womb of Devaki and place it inside Rohini. The next child which Devaki will bear will be myself. You will at the same time be born as the child of Yashoda and Nanda. Because of this great event, you will, in future times, be known as Ishwari, who will grant children to the childless and grant all the boons people ask of you. Men will worship you with naivedyas, with incense, and with sacrifices. People will build temples for you, and you will be called by many names: Durga, Bhadrakali, Vijaya, Vaishnavi, Kumudha, Chandika, Krishna, Kannika, Maya, Narayani, Ishani, Sharada, Ambika. As for the child who will be transferred from Devaki's womb to that of Rohini, he will be known as Sankarshana, and Rama, since he will charm the entire world, and Bala, since he will be very powerful. Yogamaya took the permission of the Lord and descended to the earth. Devaki went into a trance, and the transfer of the child was performed without her knowing about it. The next day, people said that the child had been lost even before it was born. Kamsa also heard the same story. Sankarshana grew in the womb of Rohini. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu.